Alright guys, so let's start chapter 12, which is going to be talking about how negative externalities are happening. Okay? So we kind of understand that pollution does have an effect on the environment, and in terms of economics, we're going to be talking about pollution as a externality. So I'll tell you all about externalities in a second, but basically we do understand how air and water pollution, right, are not good for the environment. They will be causing some issues. How they come about is, we're going to be having waste disposal. So a firm could just have a lot of trash, a lot of waste from, the different types of materials they're making, and they're trying to figure out, well, how can I get rid of this extra waste? And what they'll do is they'll try and just do it the cheapest way possible. Right, so sometimes firms will actually just throw their stuff in, a river or a lake, right? And so that would be a hazardous waste disposal. We also have issues with like destroying wetlands or wildlife habitats in order to just increase firms' production. And we also do have the health impact on pollution as well. So these are the different factors from pollution, right? So the different factors that come from the pollution, that is where the externality comes in. The effect of a market exchange on a third party who is outside of the exchange. Basically, we have the supply and demand, so we're producing this quantity, right? And because we're producing this quantity, this is creating, let's say, pollution, right? That is affecting somebody else. So because I buy a car in this market, supply and demand, okay, I'm causing pollution. And because that's causing air pollution, that's affecting somebody else. That's not me, right? So it is external, right? Somebody who is outside of me driving my car is being affected because I drive my car. So that is the externality. Because I'm affecting somebody else, that is an externality. Another thing this is called is a spillover. Okay, so basically I have the cost of the car, and then there's that extra cost to somebody else. So that cost of the car is spilling over to other people. So basically the car costs me money, and there is the pollution on top of that. And since this is the cost of the car, this extra pollution will spill over into society. Okay? So externalities could be negative, which we talked about, like pollution, but they could also be positive. In the next video, we'll talk about positive externality. Similar idea in that because you are doing something, you are affecting somebody else. So pollution as a negative externality, what is happening here is we have this additional cost. Just like I buy a car, there's going to be a cost to that, and there is the extra cost on top of that. So when we're looking at the cost of the car and the cost of pollution, that is going to be the social cost. So social costs include both the private cost and the additional cost to society. Okay, so basically what's happening here is we have a supply and demand. Okay. Now the demand, right? The only reason you do anything is because you are benefiting. So what we're going to do is call this the marginal private benefits. Right? You buy a car because you like it. That is your benefits. That's your demand, your marginal private benefits. The supply, okay, well, this is the lowest price they're willing to go, right? So this is the marginal private cost of the car. So MPC, the marginal private cost. So therefore, in the market, right, where we're just having marginal benefits and marginal cost, that's what equilibrium is, right here. Price, quantity. Now, this is the price in the market, and this is the quantity in the market. Okay, supply and demand, nothing changes there. Supply and demand, same. Here's the deal though. When we are buying the car, we are also causing pollution. Now, pollution is going to be a negative externality, right? Or we could have some sort of pollution on the production. So basically, because we have to make the car, like produce it, this will cause an extra cost on top of that, such as the waste disposal. So the firm throwing the waste into a river and polluting the water. That's an extra cost because of production. Because this is an extra cost for production, this would change the supply because it's production. Okay, so what would happen here is we would have to shift supply to the left. Okay, so this is the supply with the extra cost. So this second supply curve here, this is the marginal social cost. Now, what the marginal social cost is, this is the marginal private cost plus the marginal external cost. All right, so basically, in order to get the total cost to society, you need to buy the car, so your private cost, and then there's that extra cost of the pollution. Okay, so the marginal private cost of the car, and then the marginal external cost is the extra cost to society. Okay, so this could be the human health effects because of the air pollution. This could be the effect on wildlife habitats. This could be a reduction in the health habits of different people. If anything that is negatively happening because of this quantity, that is the external cost. And what we're going to do is create the marginal social cost. All you're doing here is decreasing the supply. Okay. So what does this mean? This means you have a new equilibrium. This right here, this is the social price. Social price, and this is the social quantity. All right, because the cost of the car, right, is higher, you need to pay a higher price and produce less. Okay, so this is the effect on negative externalities. Price is higher and quantity is lower. Okay, and this is going to be a good thing, right? Because if we are producing less cars, what happens to pollution? It has to be less. Okay, so this is actually a good thing in the sense of air pollution and reducing externalities. Okay, so the issue here is that what does the market always do? The market always goes to equilibrium. There is nothing stopping this firm from producing equilibrium. Okay, they're just going to go to equilibrium. Now, in terms of the government, where they're trying to protect its people, they're going to want to reduce pollution. So what the government will do is they will increase taxes on production. And as we talked about with taxes, this is going to reduce the supply curve, right? So same thing that happens here. So therefore, with a tax, this will give you the social price and the social quantity. So the only way this happens, okay, is where taxes increase. Okay, so taxes go up, you can have the lower quantity. Okay? The market will go to equilibrium, but if we have taxes, we can get to the social quantity. Taxes increase, and we get to social optimal. Okay, negative externalities, you want a tax. Okay. So all we did here, supply and demand, and because of the external cost, this is going to decrease the supply curve. Okay, so now you have a social price and a social quantity. And how you get there is with taxes. Okay. Now, the thing is that because the market, nothing stops the market from going to equilibrium, that is why we have a market failure. When the market on its own does not allocate resources efficiently in a way that balances social costs and benefits. All right, so externalities do create a market failure. We want to be at the social optimal. Social optimal is where the marginal social benefits is equal to the marginal social cost. And that happens right here at this equilibrium. Okay? So that's where we want to be. And if we are not there, such as the market price and the market quantity, then you are having a market failure because you are not at your marginal social cost, marginal social benefit. So that is why we need a tax in order to get to the social optimum. If the firms were required to pay for the social cost, like a tax, then they would create less pollution and produce less product. Okay, so this is where the tax comes in. Okay, so therefore, we need those taxes or other regulations in order to decrease the quantity, decrease pollution, and get to the social optimum. The main thing I want you to understand here is that negative externalities are where you are producing a negative outcome for society. We want to reduce that negative. In order to reduce the negative, you need a tax. Okay? There are other ways that happen in terms of other regulations, such as a command and control. So you could have laws that specify quantities of pollution that you're able to do. So you're only able to pollute this amount. And they also may detail which pollution control techniques one can use. So basically, you have to use this process to reduce pollution. So this could require increasing cost, and firms are required to account for the social cost of pollution in deciding how much to produce. So basically, the government's really stepping in here and saying, hey, you need to do it this way so you can decrease pollution. Command and control. The three issues here is that regulations offer no incentive to improve the quality of the environment. Okay, all we're trying to do here is just say, hey, reduce pollution. Don't do it for the social good of trying to reduce pollution, like in today's society where it's like, hey, firms get looked down upon if they're trying to pollute the environment. That's more of a social good. We're, in terms of command and control, we're kind of telling the firms you need to reduce pollution, and they're not doing it for the social good, they're doing it because they have to. They're also inflexible command control. Okay, basically this is the way to go, and they are subject to compromises in the political process. So basically, because the government steps in, there's a lot of loopholes and a lot of fine print that goes into these things to where a firm could actually go around the pollution requirements. Okay? Which is why we also have market-oriented tools. All right, this is a lot of reading right here. The basic idea of what I want you to say is, what you need to know is that we do have a thing called marketable permits. So basically, you are able to pollute this amount. Okay, let's say it's for firm alpha, you're able to pollute 100 tons. Okay, but if you want to pollute 150 tons, you need to buy extra permits. If you are like firm gamma, where you can pollute 300, but you only pollute 200, you have an extra 100 pollution permits. So you can actually sell these permits to another firm. And so that would really help you in terms of getting extra money to increase your infrastructure or whatever. And this also reduces pollution, because if you pollute too much, you have to pay for this pollution. So all I'm trying to say is that we do have a command regulation and we do have a market regulation on pollution. Okay? So that is it on negative externalities. Okay, remember, the big key here is demand is your marginal private benefits, and it's your marginal social benefit. Okay, there's no extra benefit you're getting from driving the car. Okay, it's just your social benefit. And then we have a supply curve, and this is the marginal private cost of making the car. So this is the market price. This is the market quantity. Because you have the externality, right, you have that marginal external cost, this will create the marginal social cost, the MPC plus the MEC, the total cost to society. So therefore, we want to be here, we want to be at the social price and the social quantity. And how we get there is with a tax. That's how negative externalities work. Okay? In the next video, we'll talk about positive externalities. I'll see you there.